The details of a proposed ceasefire are beginning to come into focus, and it definitely does not mean that the war is over, and it might even mean that there is a rebellion within Hezbollah which will change the entire equation of both sides of the border. In any case, for both the Lebanese and the Israeli people, there is a general understanding that one way or another, this war will end someday and things will not go back to the status quo from before the war started. Perhaps, in recognition of this, Hezbollah sent a large salvo of rockets into northern Israel overnight on Monday, but not as large as was feared, raising a question about what remains of Hezbollah's missile arsenal. Meanwhile, in the Gaza Strip, Hamas shows signs of disintegration, including a statement admitting defeat but clinging to the hostages. Elsewhere, indictments were filed in Germany against 4 Hamas terrorists who planned to attack the Israeli embassy in Berlin. We have a lot to talk about today, so let's dive into the details. I'm Yair Pinto, and this is your Boots on the Ground report about what is happening in Israel on the 417th day of the war against Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis in Yemen, and all the Shiite militias in Iraq and Syria. All of them are acting under the direction of Iran, the head of the axis of evil in the Middle East. Before we start, please click on the subscribe button so that you'll never miss another episode of Boots on the Ground. I also want to tell you that today's video is sponsored by our good friends from Artzabox, which bring you great products from the Holy Land that can be on the way to your doorsteps right now. Later in the report, I'll explain how you can get your very own Artzaboxes. But first, as always, the news. The New York Times reported on Monday evening that a ceasefire between Hezbollah and Israel seems closer after Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei gave his approval to the emerging settlement. The Times report quoted sources in the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps who are familiar with the inner workings of the regime and who said that an agreement was already been reached and Hezbollah has agreed to the ceasefire. But what does this mean? Will the war in the north simply stop in place just like that when Hezbollah is continuing to fire salvos of rockets deep into Israel on behalf of Iran? Let's take a closer look at what the agreement actually says. The terms of the agreement, which was formulated with the involvement of diplomats from America and France, were reported in the New York Times, and they include some interesting points. First, the IDF will withdraw from Lebanon within 60 days, and Hezbollah will move away from the border with Israel. However, according to the reports, the main point of contention in this agreement concerns Netanyahu's demand to ensure Israel's ability to renew fighting in case of violation of the agreement by Hezbollah. Israel is seeking formal approval from the United States either as part of the agreement or in an accompanying document that would allow it to redeploy forces if Hezbollah violates the agreement. So, in other words, we're talking about a 60-day trial period during which the IDF would remain deployed in southern Lebanon to see if Hezbollah is keeping its side of the agreement and if a long-term truce is feasible. Only after completing the withdrawal and deployment along the blue line will Israel call on the residents of the north who were evacuated at the beginning of the war to return to their homes. As it stands now, the proposed agreement does not take a clear position on the timing of a response by violations from one side or another. That is, if Israel identifies a threat from the Lebanese side violating the agreement, it can act immediately. This also includes the issue of targeted assassinations. The Shiite terrorist organization insisted that Israel commit not to assassinate senior officials and commanders of Hezbollah, but Israel objected. The agreement does not address this issue, but the assessment is that Israel can also act in this way if necessary. Reports have also emerged that the Americans have signed a document which is sort of an appendix to the main agreement, whereby Israel will retain the option to act immediately against threats such as a missile fire or the activation of an explosive device. Israel can also prevent the smuggling of weapons from Syria to Lebanon on the Syrian side. Regarding non-immediate threats, Israel will be required to approach the Enforcement Committee and demand immediate handling of these threats by the Lebanese army and UNIFIL. If these parties do not act, Israel can act, and Lebanon will also retain the right to self-defense. This agreement essentially provides broad international recognition of Israel's right to prevent Hezbollah from rearming itself and act against developing threats south of the Litani River. In Israel, it is also assessed that the incoming American administration of President-elect Donald Trump will indeed give Israel freedom of action. These are the main points of the agreement as it pertains to Israel, and it seems to be pretty clear. But in regards to Hezbollah, there are so many questions about what will happen next. That's because there is an apparent rebellion taking place at this time within Hezbollah. A chant that is being heard all over southern Lebanon this week is Hajj Khalil el-Harb. The leader of the jihadists refuses a ceasefire, and a Lebanese analyst has added in statements to the media that the extremist factions see Naim Qassem as a weak and cowardly leader who does not avenge the blood of Nasrallah. There are also statements being made that individual Hezbollah figures and small units are declaring that they will not abide by the ceasefire but will continue firing into Israel. To make a personal comment, I'm not sure how seriously we should take these threats. Most of the frontline units that are supposedly making these threats have been annihilated in the battles they've already fought with the IDF. Thousands of their most highly trained and best equipped fighters have been eliminated, and many more have been wounded or simply abandoned their posts and run away. I'm not sure who is even left to keep fighting, and I'm also quite sure that whoever keeps fighting will be swiftly eliminated either by the IDF or by those Hezbollah units loyal to the leadership who recognize that the time for a break in the action has come. In any case, to repeat what I said earlier, senior officials in Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps told the New York Times that Iran received notice on Monday that the ceasefire is very close. However, we must not forget that for Hezbollah, launching rockets into Israel is just another tactic in negotiations and part of an effort to save face. They don't want to be seen as having been defeated militarily, but they can accept being seen as going down fighting. On Sunday, they launched around 250 rockets towards Israel and injured at least 13 people. In response, the IDF ordered a widespread evacuation in the southern Beirut area and attacked Hezbollah command centers. In the last 24 hours, the Israeli Air Force has continued this campaign of destruction against Hezbollah centers. Once again, I'd like to ask you to click on the subscribe button if you haven't already. This is a great way to help us really spread the truth and grow our online footprint so that more people will find us and be exposed to what is going on in Israel and in this region. Now, to give a little background into what we're seeing right now, for decades, the terrorist regime in Iran has been extensively working to finance and supply weapons to all its proxies in the Middle East. Foremost amongst them is Hezbollah. In close cooperation with Hezbollah, Iran established secret routes through Syrian territory to Lebanon, through which thousands of trucks filled with weapons, ammunition, and military equipment of all kinds were sent over the years. There was also an air route with the cargo holds of passenger aircrafts flying from Tehran in Iran to Beirut in Lebanon, stuffed filled of the same military hardware. The regime in Syria has assisted with these weapon transfers as part of the payment it makes to Iran for all the assistance Tehran rendered to it during the civil war that raged in that country for most of the past decade. Hezbollah's Unit 4400 is responsible for maintaining this supply route, and the Israeli Air Force has extensively targeted this group in both Lebanon and Syria as part of Operation Northern Arrows. These strikes have resulted in some fiery, spectacular results, including the elimination of the commander of Unit 4400, Muhammad Jaffer Kasser, in early October in Beirut. His intended replacement, Ali Hassan Garib, was taken out a few weeks later in Damascus. Alongside them, several other senior commanders in the unit have been eliminated. The weapons transfer routes passing through Syrian territory to Lebanon have also suffered physical damage during the last months of the war and before. This is a major component of the long-term strategic plan that Israel is implementing to safeguard its civilian population and protect the country from Hezbollah. Another part of the plan is direct attacks on the command and control infrastructure of Hezbollah in the southern Beirut neighborhood of Dahya, and 3 waves of strikes took place on Monday. 70 targets were struck, adding to the 280 Hezbollah targets struck in Beirut since this war began. According to an IDF statement, we are in a strong attack on Hezbollah, and even in defense, we have not given any other instruction at the moment. The political echelon is leading the settlement, giving an instruction from the political echelon. We know how to do what is required. Here at TBN Israel, we will continue to report on any development on the northern border. But even if the war in the north will come to an end soon and the evacuated residents are able to return to their homes, it will take time for them to get back on their feet and for their businesses to flourish again. These families and communities are rebuilding their homes, their factories, and their workshops, and they need the customers to start coming back to them. I know you, our loyal viewers, love Israel and wish that you can be here as soon as you can. And I also know you are praying for us to rise again, better and stronger, and for our people to prosper. Well, you can also help Israel practically, even from afar, by ordering Arza boxes, a locally produced handmade product delivered directly to your doorsteps and bring a true blessing to the working men and women of Israel. Arza boxes are filled with flavors, scents, and craftsmanship made right here by local artisans. It's not only a gift to yourself or to your loved ones. It means that you are standing with us, with Israel, when we need you the most. So please, go to www.arzabox.com. Don't forget to use our exclusive 10% discount by entering the code TBNIL, and you will find original gifts for Christmas or any other occasion. So thank you, and now let's get back to the news. Switching our focus now to the Gaza Strip, where the IDF is operating in several areas. The main area of operations is the northern sector, where Division 162 forces are maneuvering in the Jabalia refugee camp. The forces are consisting of the 401st Armored Brigade, the Kfir and the Givati Infantry Brigades, as well as the multi-dimensional unit, are close to defeating the hardcore of Hamas that concentrated and has been operating in this area for the past several months. More than half of the 3,000 Hamas terrorists which concentrated in this area are having already been eliminated, while many more have surrendered or been taken as prisoners. This leaves only a few hundred holdouts. In the central sector, the IDF expanded its presence in the main access corridor. Armored and infantry battalions are operating on this highway, and the IDF established a permanent installation there, including posts, a paved road, and additional systems. This transport network crosses Gaza from the east to the west and prevents movements from the south to the north of the Gaza Strip. In the south, the Gaza Division is deployed and is responsible for all activity in Rafah and the Philadelphia corridor. The Nachal Brigade also operates in this sector along with the armored units. If I can make a personal comment, my heart is often with the Gazan population, where Hamas rules and abuses, even as it recently called on the world to intervene in the difficult situation in the Gaza Strip following the winter weather. In a statement from Hamas's information office, it was written that more than 10,000 tents were washed into the sea in the last 48 hours due to this weather. According to the organization, 110,000 out of 135,000 tents in the Gaza Strip are unfit for use and need replacement. This is essentially a message that constitutes an admission that the organization is no longer able to control what is happening in the Gaza Strip and needs help of the world countries for the most basic things, which indicate the organization's difficult governmental situation. Other reports from the Strip indicate a loss of civilian control by Hamas throughout Gaza and has begun to have fights with rogue clans and merchants who refuse to pay taxes to the terrorist organization. Reports have also emerged from both Hamas elements inside the Gaza Strip and rival Palestinian factions that there is a general breakdown in the administration of the civilian population. Inside Gaza, they say that the most significant and largest merchants clan in the center of the Gaza Strip, the Harjun clan, refuses to pay taxes to the organization on its goods, and that the conflict has deteriorated into shootouts in the streets. This is the situation inside the Gaza Strip, and since the agreement with Hezbollah in Lebanon, in our north, is linked directly to what is happening in the Gaza Strip, the fighting until the return of the hostages and the fall of the Hamas regime will continue. Please continue to spread the truth and stay tuned to what's happening in Israel in real time. We, at TBN Israel, bring you our news site where you can stay updated with in-depth articles and ongoing reports on what's happening in Israel. So go to tbnisrael.com to stay tuned to the truth in real time. We conclude today's report with news from Germany, where the Federal Prosecutor General has filed an indictment against 4 members of a Hamas terrorist cell who intended to attack several targets in Germany. Authorities in the Karlsruhe, where the trial is being conducted, announced that the 4 detainees were charged with membership in the Hamas terrorist organization. The indictment also referred to weapons that the members of the terrorist cell accumulated and hid over the past few years. According to the indictment, Hamas has been building weapons stockpiles in various countries in Europe for some time now in order to keep them ready for the moment it is decided to carry out terrorist attacks against Jewish institutions and various Western targets across this continent. The organization uses foreign helpers to maintain the improvised weapon warehouses, which is scattered in various countries, some buried underground. An example of this was revealed in April 2024, when, according to media reports, Western intelligence agencies led by the Israeli Mossad led to the exposure of a weapons cache hidden in southern Bulgaria. In another case, one of the defendants brought to Germany a pistol he took from a weapons cache hidden in Denmark. Another weapons cache suspected to have been buried in Poland has not yet been found despite feverish searches for it. Here at TBN Israel, we will continue to update you on any developments regarding the Islamic extremism in the world. So please continue to help us spread the truth by sharing our videos on YouTube and following us on social media. There is one more news item coming to us from the United States. The Republican Party is expected to take a hard line against pro-Hamas activists on university campuses inside the United States of America. Among the planned measures, according to a report this week by NBC News, are deportation of foreign students who have publicly expressed support for Hamas or other terrorist organizations, prosecution of demonstrators blocking entrances to religious institutions, and investigations against activists maintaining direct ties with groups defined as terrorists by the American administration, as reported by NBC. In addition, the pro-Israel legislation being formulated may lead to opening investigations against organizations suspected of supporting terrorism or funding protest activities. These measures may lead to revoking tax exemptions and harming the financial status of these organizations. Here at TBN Israel, we will continue to update you with the truth, but we need you to continue praying. So please, pray for the peace of Israel, pray for the peace of the IDF soldiers wherever they are, in Lebanon, in the Gaza Strip, or in Judea and Samaria. Pray for the swift return of our hostages. Guys, we still have 101 hostages in the Gaza Strip. Let's unite and pray that they will come home to their families soon, healthy, mentally and physically. Continue to pray for the peace of Israel, and most importantly, don't forget to pray for the peace of Jerusalem.
Hello, this is Mati here in Jerusalem with TBN Israel.
This is Yair Pinto from TBN Israel here in Jerusalem. TBN Israel is keeping viewers informed with Israel-focused news, culture, and what God is doing in this land.
Support TBN Israel today online at tbn.org/Israel. Thank you.